Brett Perigo, tonight's second place finisher. Plenty of fans here, Brett, and a solid second place finish.
Yeah, I got to shout out the Turn 2 Terribles over there. They're all a bunch of good guys to hang out with, talk to. I really like them.
How are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, I'm talking here. You know who you're talking to? Macho Man! I'm on my way to Monday Night Raw.
trying to figure out how I want to answer the second one.
Your choice.
It's a trap.
I feel like it is. I feel like he's setting up fights in the front stretch is what he's trying to do.
Speedway. We've got Devin Borden with us.
At Keen Motorsports Shop here with Kyle Keen.
Sitting here with Sean Keen. We're going to talk a little bit about racing history.
Yep. Monday, March 24th, 2025. I am sitting here with Jay-Z. We are the Turn 2 Terribles. Chris is kind of caught up with some work right now, so maybe he'll be on later, maybe not. What's going on this lovely Monday evening? We got some racing to talk about. We got Port Royal opener in here this past weekend. We have a bunch of high limit and outlaw races to talk about. And then we'll take a look at the upcoming week. We've got another stacked week, and the weather's looking pretty good. So fingers crossed. Want to give a shout out. Brad Weatherby, what's going on? Shout out to Vertical for Life. They support us, support them, helping, try to prevent tools or try to provide tools to prevent veteran suicide and give them the mental health support that they need and everything else that they need. So definitely go check verticalforlife.com out. Great things that they're doing over there. We'll talk about a little bit more about them later. Matt Bird, Mandy, James. We also saw Steph. We were all hanging out in Turn 2 on Saturday. It was cool to see everybody hang out, watch some racing. It was a good time. Eric Santos, what's going on? Brandon, no Chris again. Yeah, he had to kind of go and do work on his day off. So hopefully he pops in here later. If not, hopefully he's back next week. Jay-Z, man, how are you?
I'm good, man. Not too bad, not too bad. Ready to get going here and talk a little sprint cars.
Let's get right into it. So start this off here. Rainouts, cancellations due to weather. Friday, Williams Grove canceled because of the winds and cold temperatures. And Saturday, Lincoln also decided to do the same with the cooler temperatures and some of the rain. I think both of these were the right call just because they were starting so late. Williams Grove starting at 7:30 on Friday when it was going to be, 25, 30 mile per hour winds and 40 degrees. It's just not ideal. It's, plenty more races left this year. think they made the right call. Even though it was nice out, nice and sunny, no rain and everything, it was still going to be pretty cold. It's not only on the fans, but that's a lot on the equipment, of these race teams as well. And then Lincoln, they were kind of in a weird spot, um, especially with having Port to kind of compete with, who started earlier. So I think they made the right call as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I hated it, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was it was the right thing, and there weren't really too many people upset about it. It is they kind of knew, and it's early. I was talking to my wife about this earlier. Like, I didn't love that I didn't get to see any major. I went to Baps, and even it rained there, and I was like, I'm out of here. I left, and I hated it didn't get to see some racing, but at the same time, like we got so much year left.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
potentially if the weather works out this weekend, and we could get three of them back to back to back, right? So
right.
it won't be long where we're all going, huh?
I wish
Okay,
we had a break.
95, and do I want to do this tonight? So it won't be long. We're just a little impatient. We're fortunate to be able to see what we've seen so far, but I hate it for Williams Grove, just the way that it's worked out this year. They
Yeah.
just haven't gotten anything in yet, but they will. They'll get their turn.
I think this Friday they'll definitely get their turn. We'll talk about that a little bit later, taking a look at the weather and what's coming up this week. Let's go to Port. Well, we're gonna start with Port Royal. They were the only one to race, sprints at least here on this past weekend on Saturday. They started mid afternoon and they had 35 sprint cars, 25 or 34 sprint cars, 24 late models. Um, Pretty good turnout for cars. Fan turnout wasn't awful. I actually thought it was going to be a little less considering how the weather was. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's like 70% chance of rain," but the rain was very light. Um, we did have a delay during this one in between heats 2 and heats 3, and a lot of people either stayed in the tunnel, at least in the infield, or went back to their cars. Everybody went got some food. 45 minutes later, we were racing, and I gotta give a huge hand to Port Royal because they threw every vehicle that they had out there on that track to keep it going throughout the rain. And the rain, like I said, the rain wasn't heavy, but it was enough to stop it. And at one point, it looked like the sun was starting to come out. We're getting back into the infield, getting and I'm looking over. I'm like, all right, it sounds like they're about to get going. Look over, it turns 3 and 4. It looks like it's downpouring, and I'm in 1 and 2. I'm like, it's drizzling, but it's not doing anything. But it looked really bad, so that added a little bit extra time. But they kept all the push trucks and everything out there. They got the track rolled in. They kept it going, and the track turned out great. I thought it raced really, really well. And the sun ended up coming out after that passed, and it wasn't too cold, so bravo to Port. They stuck through it. There's some people that were kind of up in the air, and they were like, "No." They saw Lincoln cancel, and like, "No, we're going full bore." And I'm glad that they got this in. They deserve to get that in with the hard work that they put in. So good for them. So the feature goes to Anthony Macri here. Gets the win over Brock Zierfoss, who led most of this race. And then Chase Dietz from 10th to 3rd gets on the podium. Brock Zierfoss, Steve Buckwalter, Gerard McIntyre, and Kelby Watt with heat race wins. Your hard charger was Lance DeWeese, 22nd to 8th. This was a fun one. The there was a lot of there's a lot of side by side racing. I felt like it felt like sort of old port coming. There's a lot of sliders getting thrown into 1 and 2. Um, that's how Macri got the lead at one point. Kelby Watt threw one on Zierfoss, I believe, at one point. There's more going throughout the field. It was great. I thought it was a pretty good race. You kind of just knew Macri was coming, especially when there was a yellow for Austin Bishop spinning, kind of bunched the field up. That let Macri get in front of him. And then there was a red later on between Mike Walter, Doug Hammaker, and Austin Bishop, all going upside down, unfortunately. Those were your wrecks in this one. Jay-Z, what were your thoughts about this race on Saturday?
I watched this on my phone in the infield at Baps and tried to pay attention the best I could. And, um, I didn't know what to think early. It was so heavy, it was so fast, and it looked like it was starting to get dry out a little and get wide, and then the rain hit. And then I was like, oh no, like this isn't that doesn't bode well, putting more moisture back in the racetrack. Um, but it created a really interesting surface. It was cushion off of four, cushion or lip or whatever it was a little sketchy, and you know, slider line of 1 and 2, and they weren't like on the wall. It very reminiscent of an early year Port Royal track. It was heavy. It still had a curb, but the curb wasn't up on the wall. It wasn't far enough to be dry enough to get all the way up there. I was entertained. I thought this was obviously Brock's race to lose, and you're in a restart late with Anthony Macri in second place. You're do you play offense or defense, right? Like, what do you do? No matter what you do is probably the wrong decision. Anthony's so good on restarts. We've seen this time and time and time again, him near the front. He just puts you in a spot where you got to make a decision. And he did. And it worked. Right. So, Brock was really fast, and I'm sure he hates to let that thing get away, but at the same time, he can't be terrible. I mean, you never want to give a race away or feel like you did. But Anthony, I think, took that more than Brock gave it away for sure. Um, but that thing stays green. I'm not sure Anthony gets there. I mean, he was there, but I don't
Yeah.
know if he's fast. I mean, he's fast enough, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure, right? It would have been interesting to see, but that's not the way it worked out. What jumped out to me were a couple things. Lance, they figured something out in the B and into the A and got it rolling. Where everybody was sort of up top, living and dying up there, he just did what he does, and it still worked. And he was doing it better than other people down there. So that was, that's encouraging to see. New crew chief there, new pairing together, and um, we'll see, right? We'll
Yeah.
see. The other thing was Chase Dietz. It seemed like he came out of nowhere at the end and passed like 4 cars to get to third. Was sort of just hanging around. And it seemed like he just threw the wing back and said, "Well, we're sending her, fellas," and it worked out. So he goes 10th to third, kind of keeps his podium streak alive there. But
Yeah.
what I hated there was Hammaker, Mike Wagner, and Austin Bishop getting torn up for 16th. Just
Yeah.
unnecessary. Got out. Looked like Doug was pretty upset with Mike Wagner. I didn't see it. I don't know what happened, but if somebody's upset about something and you're racing for 16th, someone probably screwed up and didn't need to, I
Hmm.
would say. Because I kind of looked at that running order of where they were when that happened. And Austin Bishop was even further back than them. So he was an
Yep.
instant bystander, it looked like. Um, just unnecessary, probably. If somebody made a mistake, they made a mistake. But if someone made a mistake by being overly aggressive, I hate that on day one. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't need it.
So some things that I saw on things that you just brought up with the thing with Lance, in his heat, he came into turn one. He started like fifth or sixth. I can't remember exactly where. He started kind of mid pack, and he just absolutely washed up the track turn one and dropped back to last. And I don't know if he necessarily just didn't try, but at that point, you're not gonna push too hard. He did. I think he did get one or two passes, but you know, first race, first heat race, you drop back. There's only so much you could do, and then he looked really, really fast in that B main, and he had to drive from the back of the B main to get up into those transfer spots, and he did so pretty well. And then he drove up through the field. Um, Not even really through attrition. He looked really fast. He was passing guys on the bottom, middle bottom, looked really fast. So, um, yeah. And then the thing with Mike Wagner and Doug Hammaker, I kind of caught because it happened to turn one. I caught the beginning of it, what seemed like the beginning of it out of the corner of my eye, and then I started seeing them wreck. It looked like maybe Mike was gonna try to go below Doug, and I don't know if Doug just slowed down more than Mike expected or just misjudged it completely, but he kind of just ran into the back of him. They both went flipping. Austin Bishop's running behind and he's trying to come through and just gets clipped by I think by one of the two cars, and then he gets flipped just trying to, wasn't able to slow up and stay low enough at the time to avoid it. So that was really unfortunate for him, especially since he brought out a yellow before that for spinning. Another yellow early in the race was Danny Dietrich, who looked really fast. He was running up in the top five, and then coming out of turn four, which turn four did have a lot of character, that's for sure. Um, it something broke, he said, and it looked that way because it just immediately died as he's racing. Um, and then he was in the back, and I guess something just didn't seem right, and he pulled off. Freddie also pulled off. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. And I believe Justin Whittle had to stop during that yellow too, but it was for a safety issue, and he ended up getting his spot back. So, um, yeah, just I thought it was a good race. Happy that they got it in. Happy they stuck with it. Um, Kelby Watt, extremely impressive. I mean, he started on the pole of his heat, was able to go and take care of business there, and he was battling for the lead with Brock. He threw a hellacious slider at one point. Um, didn't really get able to stick. Brock was able to cross him over, but he looked really good, and then he had something break towards the end of the feature, and that's why he finished his 18th. But he was running up there. Um, yeah, just unfortunate for him. Hope to see him back. I know he was. You saw him on social media. He was amped up to go to Williams Grove on Friday. He wasn't able to do it. They were going to go to Lincoln. That gets canceled, so he made the last minute decision to go to Port. Um, and I'm happy he did. He looked really good there. Shout out to Troy Wagman. Uh, P6, he looked good up there all day. Um, for a guy who's only raced a handful of races at Port Royal, he looked really, really good. And he gets better every single time he goes up there. So shout out to him. And then Justin Whittle also I thought looked really, really fast. He was charging towards the end and got himself up into the top 5.
Yeah, a couple questions I saw here. Let's see. Somebody asked, Sol Gerard was in a different car. Do you have any info on that? Yeah, Randy. Shout out Randy checking in from YouTube. We are live on YouTube as well. We want to continue to grow that. So, um, if you're already here on Facebook, that's fine, but you can always check us out on YouTube as well. Yeah, that car is the car that Dylan Cisney was in last year. It is back. It has a 2 on it. Uh, that is the car owner's kind of number, whatever. So that is that car. We saw GMAC at Lincoln a couple times there with the 33. I'm not sure what the plan is there. Maybe that's now a Friday night car at the Grove. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I don't know what the future holds there. He's a guy we should probably have on the show sometime, right? We should
Yeah,
ask.
yeah,
So, but that's what that car was. And then I saw, let's see, there was another one. Linton was that Linton was Linton in the Trone 39?
yeah.
Yes, Randy. Actually, Randy. Yeah, Randy. That was the Trone 39. Was back out. It was good to see that car out. A little bit of speed there. I think in the B, was it the B? He fought with Lance pretty hard in the B there. They had a pretty good little battle for position in the B. Yeah, there you go, Dave. 2 for Port, 33 for Lincoln. They can't do the same time though, Dave. They that I don't know, doesn't work. I don't know how that works. Maybe Dave's going to drive it. What do you think? Um, but yeah, so we'll see. Like I said, I got some other rumor slash news tonight that maybe the mayor of Port Royal will be in a sprint car soon. So we'll see there. Did get a little bit of a rumor there. I'm not here to put out a rumor and I'll let other people break news, but sounds like we may see him in a car sooner than later, which is pretty cool. So we'll see. Oh, there you go. Santos. They had an article months ago about it. 33 scaling back, running 25 to 30. 2 car for bigger special races. So that
Cool.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that for GMAC gets to keep him behind the wheel and racing. I've always liked watching GMAC race. He got pretty competitive at Lincoln, when he was running his own stuff before he kind of faded or changed and got this ride and moved up there to run Port Weekly. So, but good day overall, pretty good day racing. I mean, you guys dealt with the rain delay there. How about the temperatures? Was it manageable?
Yeah,
Pretty decent?
it really wasn't bad. When the wind would pick up, and this was before the rain really, when the wind would pick up, it would be a little chilly. The gusts were pretty good, and then once the rain came, that gave us the delay. It was beautiful. You didn't really have any more wind. The sun was out. Yeah, it was still cloudy, but the sun was still out. It wasn't that cold, and you know, I think everything finished at Port at the perfect time. Right before sunset, or as the sun was setting, before it got really cold. Because by the time I got home after the hour drive, it was cold. You know what I mean? So
So
I think that time frame was perfect.
So you didn't take the camper? You didn't stay?
I did not. No, just because I
Okay.
don't want. I didn't want to. I saw. I think maybe 4 or 5 campers there. So I might do that this weekend. I don't know, but I didn't want to
No,
do it
you're
as of
not.
yet.
Don't do it yet.
Eh,
It's not time to do that yet. You're an hour away.
I don't know. I It might be. I think never having to using the camper before. I would like to do like just like a regular show somewhere where there's not a lot of people around, where I could take my time,
Yeah.
get it all set up, and kind of get a test run out of it before. But I thought weather this weekend looks like a prime time to do a test run, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, we had a great time in turn two. It is kind of funny because it just feels so polar opposite of Lincoln, where Danny has a huge fan base, and not saying that there weren't Danny fans at Port, but it did feel like there was a group. Shout out to that group. In turn two, that was not a fan of Danny, and they were kind of, hey, whatever, and they were big Macri fans. They were all, as soon as Macri was getting out of the car, I heard somebody yell, "Welcome home, Anthony." You know what I mean? So it's definitely kind of polar opposite of what you would see normally at Lincoln. I find that funny. I don't know. I find that ironic. It was very funny. um, yes, Matt Bird. He was I ran out. I did not anticipate a rain delay, so I ran out of beer. So shout out to Matt on the beer. Um, and he also said that he watches us on YouTube on his 55-inch TV, and then he messages us on Facebook. So I appreciate that, man. We appreciate you tuning in every week. That was a good time hanging out with everybody. Mandy too. Oh wait, what did she say here back earlier? She was in our Discord and she said it rained most of the way here, but it's not doing anything at the track. And then half hour later, well, that age like milk because that's what got stuck in the rain delay. So Santos says Kelby Watt looked great these past 2 weeks, and that looked like vintage Deweese rolling the bottom, picked his way through the field. Absolutely. I think the conditions definitely helped there, and new crew chief and everything there. First night out, they're going to work on some things, but it's very promising to see that speed for him to be, because last year I don't know if he hard charges his way through the field like that. Necessarily, maybe he does. I don't know, but he definitely looked a little bit sportier just in one race. So that's promising. Tyler Koenig says that was old school Port Royal. It had character. By old school, I mean like 2003 to 2005 Port, for sure. Another thing that Santos brings up, Brock's front wing did collapse. That didn't help on that last restart, to try to run with Macri once he got past him. But I think Macri was going to get him anyway. We know how good Macri is. Good for that team too. For the Macri team, I know they struggled. They kind of came home early. They were scheduled to be out on the road for another 2 weeks with the Outlaws, and then come home like mid-April. So it's kind of surprising to see that they were home, and a little home cooking is maybe what this team needs to get themselves going in the right direction here. Come home, feel comfortable at Port, run really fast, go get yourself a win. Might be what they need to get things going in the right direction. Who knows? um, Troy in the chat says, "I'm more of an asphalt guy now. Just saying, if you know, you know." Yeah, congratulations, Troy. He did get one win this week, so good for him. Yeah, DD posted on X something hit his car and broke apart. No other details mentioned. Chris Gray, I do want to go back to something when we were talking about the cancellations, and an interesting question from Chris
Oh yeah,
Gray.
I wanted to say something about that too. Go ahead.
How about a standard for canceling? X amount of win, X amount low temp. One track goes, another cancels. Well, there's a little bit of when they're that far away too. The weather's a little bit different. There's gonna be plenty of times where you see Lincoln's gonna end up running because they got warmer temperatures, or the rain maybe misses them, and Port's gonna end up canceling. It is kind of regional, especially when you're dealing with this kind of pop up weather that you're trying to avoid. And yeah, go ahead, JC.
Well, yeah, just leave that comment on the screen there. First of all, Chris, no, this is absolutely never going to happen. Because God forbid someone else's weather app says something different than the track uses, and then it's still going to bitch and complain. So no, that's probably never going to happen. First of all, I appreciate like the spirit of what you're getting at there, to make it more predictable for us as fans, but they're giving us plenty of notice. We don't need to be unpredictable. Like we don't need to also then just assume it. But as time went on this weekend, the more and more I thought about this, the more I thought that Lincoln conceded their
I think
race.
so. I think
It had that vibe. Like Port hadn't
Yep.
gotten one in yet. Lincoln's already had 3. Port said, "Hey, we really want to try to get this going. We really want to get this going. They worked together to make a decision." I don't know that, but it felt that way that there was some cooperation there going, "Hey, go all in, commit to it, get your cars, get your fans, have a day," right?
Yeah.
Like they're starting earlier anyway. We don't want to have people deciding because it just seemed early for Lincoln to do it. If they were going to do it, it just seemed not out of character, but it
I don't
seemed
know.
like
I thought that was a normal time for that. It was
it was a normal
earlier
time, but
Saturday morning.
I didn't think it was that convincing of a forecast for them to do it that early. That was what I thought. And I feel like there was a little bit of background, hey, have your day. It's okay. Have your
Yeah,
day.
maybe.
It just felt that way and I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
Trust me,
yeah.
I'm fine with
I'd
it. It
rather
doesn't
them do that.
correct because that can go both ways, right? That can go both ways
Mhm.
sometimes, and that might come back around where Port says, "Hey, I want to give everybody enough time for fans and drivers if they want to get down there." So I'm okay with this. Port needs their time to shine. They do a great job, and man, it was good to have them get one in. So I'm
Yeah.
glad, and the teams could make a decision. Obviously some teams made quick decision to go up, and other teams said, "Hey, we're going to sit this one out this weekend. We're
There
okay
was
with that, right?"
quite a few Lincoln guys that I was surprised how many. Like I wasn't expecting Troy to go. Freddie kind of on, I know he kind of talked about trying to get more laps there and everything, and Cam Smith, JJ Loss did make the trip. He didn't make the feature, but he did make the trip. Um, Tyler Ross had an unfortunate wreck in his heat race, but he came up, and he's not someone that really runs the 410 up there very often. So it was good. It was nice to see some of the extra Lincoln guys come up and really make this a nice field. I kind of think a part of Lincoln's decision here was Port scheduled. They are scheduled, and the same thing with this upcoming week. They're scheduled at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. If Lincoln was going to get theirs in, best move was to move their start time up. But now you're competing directly with Port Royal, and you already know Danny's there. You already know Macri's there. Brock, Dietz. They're already going to Port. So yeah, you had the 358s and everything, but you saw the crowd at Port. It wasn't a bad crowd by any means, but now you're going to be. You probably don't get as many as you do if Lincoln's trying to run at the same time, and they're both going to be with bad. So yeah, I think you're right to an extent where it's like, yeah, Lincoln's just kind of conceding the Port, and it just made more sense. But I think also the only way that Lincoln could have gotten a reasonable night in would be to move up their start time, and that just didn't make any sense for either track. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
agreed.
agree. Um, Randy says, "I live 5 minutes from Lincoln. It was very windy Saturday. Yeah, there. I mean, even at Port, it was windy until after the rain came through, and then it was fine. So, um, yeah. So shout out Port. Good job for getting that in. And and if Lincoln and Port did work together on this, tip of the cap to 'em, 'cause that's what we need to see more around here for sure. All right, let's get to. We're gonna go through high limit from this past week. I don't know if there's anybody that had a better week than Kyle Larson this week. Um, Midweek race on the 19th, which would have been, was that Thursday? Wednesday. At
Was
Thunderbolt Raceway out in California. He gets the win over Brad Sweet, Rico Abreu, Corey Day, hard charger from 21st to 4th, and Tanner Holmes with the top 5. Quick time was Aaron Reitzel. Your heat race winners were Brad Sweet, Tyler Courtney, Casey Kane, and Cy Lynch. Cy Lynch got into. Oh no, that was a different race. I'm sorry. Um,
Tanner
he,
Thorson. He was in
yeah,
the Thorson deal.
yeah, oh yeah, he was in that too. Man, Cy had a tough week. Um, yeah, so did Payton. Um, Not a bad race. Just typical Kyle Larson. At Thunderbolt, and ripping around everybody. Shane Golobic, 17th to 7th. DJ Neto, 19th to 10th. Caleb Montgomery. A lot of these California guys really made their way through the pack. Casey Kane looked pretty strong too. I got to give him a shout out. He did win a heat. He did fall back in this one, but he looked uh, quite sporty, sportier than usual, I think. out in California this week.
Yeah, this was I had fun watching Larson do what he does through the bumps and making it work. And that left rear rotor was just glowing, and he was just riding the brake, trying to keep the thing over the bumps and try not to get upside down, and still just driving that car so hard. And this was California like to a T for me. Larson, Sweet, Abreu, Day,
Hmm.
Holmes, Golobic, Courtney's not Neto, like Selzy. I mean,
Chelsea,
just
yeah.
it's like the this is like a California against the world deal there, right? And it showed. So I'm not mad at this one at all.
Yeah, it's what we expect our guys to do out in here at PA when the touring series comes in, where your top half of the field is littered between series regulars and local regulars, and California's really brought it the past few years, especially where when the Outlaws are now high limit goes out there, they're really taking it to them. You know what I mean? They're 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 competing right along with them. Um, Caden says Kyle Larson won 3 races in a week, high limit trucks and the Cup Series, and he dominated that Xfinity Series race on Saturday, and probably should have won if he didn't get jacked up on a green white checkered restart. So we could be talking about him going 4 for 4. You know, just when you think Kyle Larson falls off, he goes and rips off a bunch of wins, and you're like, oh yeah, he is really, really good at this racing thing, no matter what. It's
Who
crazy.
knew?
Who knew? um, any more thoughts from this race?
No, not really.
Let's go to Friday then, where they go to Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway in Bakersfield, California. Brad Sweet gets the win here over Casey Kane and Brent Marks on a podium. Tanner Holmes P4 and DJ Neto in the top 5. Your heat race winners were Brent Marks, Tanner Holmes, Chase Randall, and Cy Lynch. Your quick time was Austin Baccaro, and your hard charger finishing 6th from 22nd was Tyler Courtney. Your thoughts?
A good race. I think Casey Kane super impressive. I think Brent got out in victory lane, was just thrilled to be in a podium, a top 5 finish after the way California went last year. Nothing short of a disaster. And we talked about it here last week or the week before. He's in an RPM chassis, and they're trying to figure that out and get him comfortable. And he wasn't the best car clearly, and he wasn't the best car in his heat, but he made it work. Was just fast enough to stay up there and hang on to it. It wasn't without a battle though. Neto, Holmes, I think at one point they both got by and he drove back around them, and then even Casey
Yep.
Kane, him and Kane battled. Brent and Casey battled early, and Casey kind of just took that. And good run for all those guys. But again, Tanner Holmes, DJ Neto, Tim Kading,
Mhm.
Tanner Thorson,
Dominic Sales.
Selzy, right? Caleb, like it just they're there. Those California boys, man. They get after it.
Um, yeah, Brent definitely he hung up there, get that 3rd place. It really seemed like in turn 1, really just one lane on the bottom. And they were really using that curb on the bottom to kind of get them turned. 3 and 4, it looked like you had a top and a bottom, but still wasn't very wide. It's not a it's wide, but it's not. It's kind of reminds me of like a almost kind of like Bloomsburg's two, or even you could even say maybe even like Williams Grove turns 1 and 2, or Bloomsburg's 3 and 4, where it looks like there's so much space, but they never get all the way up to the top. It never does.
Yeah.
It always stays from the middle down to the bottom, and nothing wrong with that. I guess it shells off up there, but um, it's just such a lot. Those turns are just it's such a long way around. It never makes sense to go up there, even if it is fast. So, you never see anybody go up that high, and that's kind of what happened there. Um,
Yeah, I didn't mind this one. Not my favorite track that I've watched, but I mean, it still was entertaining. I still enjoyed watching it. Just I don't know if that's my favorite track I've seen them race on out west. I'll just
no,
say that.
I do think it's good. I think it has potential. I think also where they went on Saturday too has some potential too. Paris. I thought that they're interesting tracks. They're a little bit different than your other California tracks, where they're a little more high banked and really really tight. Um, But I thought it was interesting, and it was good to Kern's kind of a name that's getting out there now with Kevin Harvick taking it over. I know a lot of people know it from iRacing too, and they have a whole cool facility there with the asphalt track, and then they have a motocross track and everything. It's a whole complex there. It's pretty cool, at least from looking from the outside in. But um, I think it's good. So just kind of quick rundown. I do have some notes here. Lap one, there's a red. Dason Pursley, Chase Randall, and Silence. Pursley and Randall, I think, got together, and then Silence clips them, flips over, done for the night. 14 laps to go. Justin Sanders spins right in front of Red Sweet. And then 8 to go, there was a red. Spencer Baston, hard wreck. Just coming at a turn 2, it just beelines to the outside wall, and he had a really, really tough wreck. Good to see he was okay. Just looked like probably a part failure or something. Just made him go right into the wall. So yeah,
Yeah, I forgot that was this race, man. That
yeah,
was nasty. I'm glad he was okay.
yeah. Just real tough weekend for him. Um, get to a couple of comments here before we go to the next one. Santos goes back to what I was saying earlier about California and PA, kind of taking it to uh, the big time series here. He goes, I think Jimmy, I think 2025 will be different, especially with having Brock back home in PA. Time will tell. Oh yeah, for sure. And Chase Dietz really looking strong. Also, and then of course you got your normal players, and then you got Troy getting better, and yeah, I think we see a little bit more fight out of the posse this year. Here's to hoping. Not that they haven't. It's been a little bit down, but they're still very competitive. Obviously, when they come here, it's still one of the toughest places to go in all the country. But yeah, I mean, still at the end of the day, when we're talking about these races here with high limit, it was all high limit or national guys winning these races. Still at the end of the day, so they're about the same. I would say it's about the same of what we deal with here. Um, Chris Gray says the in-person experience is so lost to the TV presentation. I don't know how to make it better, but it is kind of painful after a while for us regulars. One thing that I would like to see is if there's an option, like a separate feed for some of these bigger races where they just have a static camera that you could see kind of the whole track. Um, but that's not necessarily feasible everywhere. Um, but yeah, I get it. I mean, that's why you should go to the track, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to see everything. There's things that you see in person that that TV's just not going to catch. It is what it is. That's part of it. You know what I mean? But there's also things that you miss from TV that you don't get in person either. So there, it's at track experience always better. Uh, just being there and being in the atmosphere and being up close to it. But yeah, I mean, uh, there's always room for improvement, but I don't think it's bad. I'd
It's
rather have what we
well,
get than not see it at all.
it's tough, right? These are short races. So they don't have a lot of time to just pan through the field and show a battle for 12th in the middle of
All
a
right.
feature that, like, yeah, the people in person care. And if it's your favorite driver running back there, it matters. But you just got to get used to it and say, okay, well, I got to get my guy up front. I hope he's up front so I can watch my favorite driver. Yeah, there are battles all throughout the field, and sometimes you don't get to see a lot of them. But it's short races, and it's about that story of who's going to win this race. That's just unfortunately part of sprint car racing, which is why I'll always choose to be in person if I can.
Yes.
I get to
Totally.
decide what I want to watch.
Caden says Tanner Holmes might have to stay on the high limit tour. He has been very good with them. Yeah, I mean they were even kind of doing they did like a teaser tweet because he was fifth in points or whatever. Um,
Interesting.
interesting, very interesting tweet. But um,
Interesting.
that team's not set up to go full time, so I don't see that happening. But it would be cool. I do figure. I mean, he filled in for Jacob Allen a couple years ago. I think he's a guy that's probably primed to go on to a tour here, maybe next year or the year after. He's just going to have to put together a deal to make that happen. But he's definitely turning a lot of heads. He's in a really good car. I mean, that Tarleton 21 car is a really good car. It's just they don't really travel too much out from the west, but it's a really solid car, and it's a good platform for himself to maybe expose himself to. Well, expose himself is a bad turn of phrase, but to to kind of to show
He
what
he
to some of these national teams what he can do and maybe get a ride to go
if
on.
he wants, yeah, if he wants to get into a touring ride and travel the country and be in a series, he's passing the job interview right now.
Hmm.
How's that? Well,
Perfect way to say it. Yeah, for sure. So that'll be interesting to see what he does rest of the year. We'll see James McFadden in that car too later in the year in the summer. I'm excited to see him back, and he'll be, if Tanner is doing this in the 21, nothing against Tanner, but imagine what James McFadden's going to be able to do if they can hit on it. You know what I mean? So that should be interesting to see. Um, yeah. So let's go to then the final high limit race, Southern California, Paris Auto Speedway. How about Aaron Reitzel, man? Last week, rock through the face, completely busted up nose. Has to go to the emergency room, get a bunch of stitches, and he goes, sets quick time, starts on the pole, dominates this race. Rubber helped a little bit, but he was definitely fastest regardless all night. He was fast all weekend. He gets the win over Austin McCarl and Brad Sweet. Brett Marks and Caleb Montgomery rounding out the top five. Your heat race winners were Austin McCarl, Brad Sweet, and Tanner Holmes. They only had 26 cars here. I think because of just where this track is located and trying to get people there. Um, Danny Sams was your hard charger, 23rd to 14th. Lap one, there was a yellow. Tim Kading spun. Then that restart. Lap one, there was a red for Jason Persley flipping, trying to pass under, I think it was Robbie Price. And then on that ensuing restart, Cy Lynch then flips, causing another red. And then the rubber really came out immediately. A couple laps in, they were in the middle of the track. And then with 5 to go, Tanner Holmes, who was right on Aaron Reitzel's bumper, he was running second, has a flat tire, running P2, and that ended his hopes at maybe trying to steal a win here. Um, so yeah, that he was really Austin Bacaro was there, he was fast, but really Reitzel had this in control. Besides Tanner Holmes being right there on his bumper.
yeah, I didn't watch this one. I couldn't stay awake, but
Yeah,
the early part of the night was great. I like this track. This is pretty cool. It does suck that it rubbered up like that, and I'm sure Aaron Reitzel is okay with it, and some of those guys up front are okay with it. But from a fan entertainment perspective, it's not what everybody wanted. And I enjoyed watching this one, like the time trials and the heats. They were pretty sporty. Looked like a fun little racetrack.
yeah,
The scenery was kind of cool. Is this had a highway going right along
yeah,
out
yep.
the
It's right
off the
outside
turn.
of LA.
Yeah, it was like just a highway going right behind it with the aerial camera. It was like, do these people? I wonder if people driving by even know what's happening. Like, not that it's that special. They have lives, whatever going on, but it was just a cool kind of backdrop for what it was. So cool for Reitzel, right? I'm sure he feels a little bit better after all that deal. And um, the one thing that I got out of this, and it's totally random, is that Landon Brooks car, that 21L. There was a shot of it in, I want to say, coming out for hot laps. The sun was on it just right. That is a gorgeous race car. If anybody hasn't seen that car, go look it up on the internet. It is a beautiful race car. I feel like I've seen it before, but I don't know. It was just the camera, the light, the whatever. Man, that thing was gorgeous. So if anybody can go look up that Landon Brooks race car, go check it out. It's gorgeous.
Um, I didn't really take notice to it. I'll have to take a look at it. Um, so kind of Brandon Zirk says terrible surface rubbered up after 12 laps. Mandy says Reitzel winning the Saturday race after a week after his nose got busted by a rock. Sucks that the track took rubber. And then Tyler Koenig says non-wing guys put on a show at Paris. It's a shame it rubbered up for the wing guys though. I do find it interesting though. I do kind of appreciate if it's gonna rubber, I like that it was in the middle of the track rather than just being. I mean, yeah, it's so one lane, but you're not just wrapping the bottom, freight training the bottom. At least you have to. It's harder. I feel like it would be harder to hit that rubber in the middle of the track than the bottom because the bottom's the bottom. Like we're gonna go, but there was guys missing that rubber and you know floating up to the cushion and it wasn't as easy to hit as maybe if it was just the bottom. So I don't know, just trying to be look on the bright side of things in terms of that. But it does suck. Rubber sucks regardless. If it's the last couple laps, okay. But that early in the race, it really sucks. Hey Steph, how's it going? A little late. It's okay. We'll forgive you.
Get your shit
Um,
together, Steph. Jeez.
And then Caden says Brett Mark's been running up front these last couple races. He's just waiting for that win to come. I agree. He's been really, really strong. There's a reason why he finished top 5 in the points last year, though. At high limit, he's good everywhere, man. He's really become a well-rounded racer over the past, couple years of him being out on tour. And I would not count him out of being a threat to compete for this title. I mean, he's going to be right there. So, yeah, he's definitely a guy that could rip off some wins.
No doubt.
Let's this will be really quick with the Outlaws. Cotton Bowl Speedway, 2 nights, Friday and Saturday. David Gravel. Okay, we can move on. No, David Gravel, Friday
Good.
night. We pretty much could, but real quick, David Gravel wins on Friday night over Buddy Kofoid and Carson Macedo. Sheldon Hansfield and Donnie Schatz, your top 5. David Gravel, quick time, finished 4th in the dash, won a heat race, wins this race, pretty much leads the entire thing once he got out there. Buddy Kofoid, Carson Macedo, also heat race winners. And then Skylar G was your hard charger, 24th to 13th. Yellows in this one. Hunter Schoenberg spun on lap 10. Garrett Williamson had a flat right rear in lap 14, and Bill Baylog with a lap to go had a flat right rear. Didn't really matter. Gravel is on a tear. Definitely the best driver right now in the country. I don't think it's even close. Just absolutely driving out of his mind. Emerson Axum, a top 10, looking pretty good. Chris Wyndham, a top 10. That's really it. I don't really have anything else from this one. Do you?
No, sir.
Saturday night, even more domination from David Gravel on this one. Quick time, heat race winner, dash winner, starts on the pole, leads every lap, wins this race over Buddy Kofoid again, who's P2. And then Sam Haferteep Jr. getting P3. Logan Schuhart, Sean Hansfield rounding out the top 5. Heat race winners, Gravel, Hodenshield, and Donnie Schatz. Garrett Williamson, hard charger, 17th to 8th. Yellows in this one. Corey Eliason and Zach Hampton got together on lap 13. There's a red flag then on that ensuing restart. Donnie Schatz on the backstretch, his left rear tire came completely off, and he ends up flipping, being done for the night. And then lap 20, another late race caution for Bill Baylog. He had a tough weekend. Late race cautions, and it looks like he's stranded at Cotton Bowl. He was looking for some help, I saw on social media, for their hauler. Need some parts and stuff like that. So hopefully he gets that straightened out and he's able to get to the track later this week.
Was this a new track record night, or was that the night before?
Not sure.
I think he said new track record on this one. This one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's a shame because Cotton Bowl is pretty racy. I mean, Hodenshield, Buddy, they were all racing hard. It's just Gravel was just so good, but there was good racing throughout the field. I do remember Buddy and Hodenshield for sure. Really racing side by side for a while.
Yeah, Jimmy, do you have a name for the camper? Griffey did ask that a second time. Do we name it yet? It may not be. It may have to be christened with a name once we get out and use it. And
yeah, let me get a weekend in it, and then I'll come up with a name. Right now, it's just
these things have to they have to. It just has to happen, right? It doesn't. Let's not be intentional about it. Sometimes these things just happen, with shenanigans.
Right now, the tentative name, I guess, would just be we always call Camp Degen when we're doing big group camping for race weekend. This will just be Camper Degen for now, but we'll come up with a name. We'll come up with a better name, that's for sure. Santos says, Hod, 2 top 5s in a row, been showing more speed as of late. I know they changed motor programs this year, so I'm curious to see them start to get streaky and compete with Gravel and Macedo. I feel like we say this every year about Hodenshield, and I get it. I see. But then he will have a run where he doesn't even get a top 10. And he's just that kind of streaky. And then he'll have a race where he's ripping the top and he will absolutely dominate the field. It is encouraging to see him have, because this is what I expected from Hodenshield a couple years ago, was to be more up in the top 5 and compete for a title. It just never kind of came to fruition. He's always like the 5th or 6th best guy, which on the Outlaw Tour, man, that's still great. He's still capable of winning a bunch of races and everything, but He just never seems to ever have that consistency to actually compete for the title. So hopefully, maybe with the motor program or whatever changes that they made, it comes. But I just feel like we talk about this with Hot and Shield every year, and he's just always kind of that fourth to sixth place guy constantly, at
Yeah, I
least in
mean,
points.
it's time trials. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
got to put them
yeah,
all together. We know he can race and pass cars, and shit can happen throughout a night. But time trial, give yourself a shot. That's all you can ask for. He's good enough to stay up there. You just got to put the night together in time trial. And you think a guy like him, like Sheldon, would always be good at time trials, but when they struggle, they're not good at any of it. And that's the challenge. So, listen, I think everybody. I don't know if there's a lot of people that are just like, man, f that guy, right? Like, I think it's better when he's doing well
yeah, for sure.
all the way
He's
around.
exciting.
He's a good personality. He's fun to talk to in the interviews. But man, it's like we all know it's right there. Just got to put it all together. So,
Yeah, he's
hoping
got
for the
all the
best for
talent.
sure.
He's got all the talent. It just seems like he's all or nothing a lot, and sometimes it's a little too many nothings. That really kind of puts him behind, at least in a points battle. But he is capable of winning 4 or 5 races a year. You know what I mean? And he always does it in thrilling fashion. That's for sure. Santa says there's a reason his dad never won a title. He's his dad in and out. He's an all or nothing guy. Look at that. Just said it right at the same time as I did. So yeah, pretty much. Um, but yeah, definitely for sure, it would be nice to see if he could find some consistency and maybe compete a little bit more.
See, Matt Bird there after a few races on both series. Think we'll have repeat winners.
We're gonna
Listen,
get to, hold
the
on.
Outlaw.
We're gonna get to that because
Oh,
that's the next
oh,
couple
we
slides
are.
here. Yeah, yeah. Um, just real quick, other winners from the weekend: Stuart Friesen, short track Super Series at Bridgeport. Homestead on Friday, flies to Bridgeport, wins there. Rick Eckert won the super late models at Port Royal. He had a hell of a battle with I mean, he dominated this race, but Satterley was on his tail. Fun super late model race there, but he looked really good. He's back in the 24, not in the 0. So pretty cool to see him. A very popular win. People like to see everybody. Yeah, a lot of people like Rick Eckert. And then Russ Minton, super sportsman at BAPS. Jay-Z, you were there at BAPS for at least a little bit before the rains came. How was it there before you left?
It was hard. I got to see like the end of one sportsman heat and then late models and extreme stocks. Um, it was okay. Like I think they had to do some track work. It was pretty windy. It got dry. Tried to do some track work. That's when the rain hit. Based on the feature, they tore up a lot of sportsmen in that feature, unfortunately. So I saw like Tony Jackson got torn up. I saw a couple others get torn up in some things, but sounded like this was a pretty decent race and cool to see Russman and Victor Lane because I got to tell you, the way last year ended with the Wing Sportsman and Dellinger kind of winning a lot at the end. Scott Dellinger, and he won the first race of the season. Man, I thought, is this guy going to lose a race again? It seemed like, right? Like now, Tony. You got Russ Mitten. You're going to have the Edkins. Like they're not going anywhere. But man, Dellinger has been on a roll lately. So we'll find out, right? We're going to get to see them on Friday night, Williams Grove Speedway. We're
Yes.
going to get to that later, but always great to see the super sports in Williams Grove, man, with the right fronts hiked up 3-4 feet in the air. I love it.
Santos is asking you, what's the health looking like for the super sportsman division?
There's some young guys in there coming up through. Brock Hamaker, friend of the show. We've had him on. Talked to him at the Racing Extravaganza. He got a fourth, so he got a good top five, and he was right there with the veterans. So time will tell. I think there was 21 of them, and I don't think all of them were out yet. It's a pretty diverse field. You got the Russ Mittens and the Scott Dellingers and the Edkins and the Tony Jacksons, and then you have guys are getting into it. So you got a pretty wide range there amongst those 20 to 25 cars. If people keep their equipment together and enough to put them on the track, I think you're going to see pretty good racing this year for them. Those wing
Yeah,
cars.
I agree. I think that and the wingless sportsman division, I think it's going to be, I think they'll be interesting divisions to watch this year for sure. Mandy says, I'm not a late model person, but the feature at Port was badass. I say it constantly on here, but if there's one place I'm going to watch a late model, it's going to be Port Royal. I mean, it's just, I'm not a huge late model person either, but um, But Port Royal, man, they just put on a show, and they were ripping, man. They were running up high, which was pretty cool to see. You don't really see that usually for a regular show with the super late models at Port. Usually they're kind of middle bottom, but they were running pretty hot because it was after the 410 feature, but there was a lot of grip up top that they were able to get up there and really kind of obviously not right up against the fence, but higher than they are. I feel like normally.
Yeah. Yeah, you usually see that like heat racing, they move up some, but it was neat to see Satterley going up there and just sort of ripping it and making time
Yeah.
doing it. That was fun to watch from I was watching on Flow obviously, but yeah, I've said that before and I agree with you completely. Late models at a short track are pretty cool.
Hmm.
Late models at Porter have a cool factor just the
Yeah,
same.
for sure. And then Tyler Koenig says, "Feel good story for Rick Eckert dedicating to his father-in-law, who we unfortunately lost on Friday. So that's a good one for them. Being able to do that is awesome." Um, Anyone know why Rick Eckert changed numbers from the 0? And then James Magby says, "I believe they said it's a throwback for a longtime sponsor or someone in his family." Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
cool.
he ran that for a while back in the day and then, 0, the 24. So there's definitely history there. I would imagine that our boy Tyler knows. Feel good story dedicating it. Oh, but Tyler, what's the history with the 24? Rick's been winning races since I was a kid, by the way. So I I,
Yeah.
I the whole family, Eckerts, look, since my whole childhood was full of Eckerts. So I'm sure Brandon or Tyler knows the story behind the 24 there. Um, okay, that's right. Yeah,
24
Ray
was
Best,
from
the
former
car owner.
car owner
Yeah,
Ravis.
I knew that. I knew that, but I don't know if I would have just been able to spit it out like Tyler because that checks out. So yeah, pretty cool. I like that font. The 24 just looks cool on a late model. I don't know
Yeah,
why. I
it
just
does.
it looks cool.
Yeah, but there was like 15 of them. I feel like because you have one of the Yoders too, and there's somebody
Yeah.
else I think with the 24. So point standings. Let's take a quick early look at the World of Outlaws point standings. David Gravel already has an 82-point jump on Carson Macedo, who's in second. 84 points on Logan Schuart on third. He's right there. And it's a bigger drop off, 114 points back to Buddy Kofoid, and then 164 back is Sheldon Hansfield. Donnie Schatz in sixth. Giovanni Selzy seventh. Bill Baylog in eighth. Garrett Williamson in ninth. And Chris Wyndham in 10th. They're pretty far out of it already, but I mean, there's a lot of points to be gained here, a lot of time to go. Um, so going back to what Matthew said, was asked earlier, do you think we're going to have any repeat winners? Well, David Gravel's certainly on his way, that's for sure. Um, And then looking at high limits point standings, Brad Sweet has a 45-point jump on Tyler Courtney. Brett Marks, 54 points back in third over Rico. Dominic Selzy's in fifth. Obviously, they've been out West Coast. They don't have as many races in as the Outlaws here. Caleb Montgomery, sixth. Austin McCarles, seventh. Tanner Holmes is eighth. Aaron Reitzel is ninth. And Casey Kane up in the top 10. Obviously, some of those guys aren't full time, so that's going to shake up a lot here over the next few weeks as they go to Arizona this week and they start making their way back east. So you'll see this kind of shake up. And a lot of the other series regulars have had tough go. You think about Pursley, think about Silence, Spencer Baston. I mean, those guys have all had really rough starts to the year. A lot of torn up equipment already on for a lot of those guys. So again, piggyback on that question, Brad Sweet already looking like he's on his way to maybe repeating. But I think Tyler Courtney, Brett Marks, Rico, they're all going to have something to say about this. Brad tends to he's so consistent, and he will have a stretch where he just rips off a bunch of races and wins. But Courtney, Marks, Rico, they're all capable of doing the same thing.
So is Aaron Reitzel. We'll see how
Yeah,
consistent
that's
he
true.
can be.
Yeah,
Right? It's 77 points, but that's only 20 and 30 back from those guys.
right.
So
Yeah,
it's a long year, a lot of racing left, and a lot of shit can happen. Um, I like this field. I think this is going to be a much closer race, no matter who wins it, than the other one. And speaking of the other one, the World of Outlaws title, somebody mentioned, there's a lot of comments this week after, this week and last couple of weeks with gravel dominating. You know, somebody said that mentioned, I think Braden McMahon might have said it about, I thought the days of 2020 race wins in a season were over. This might be that year. So
Hmm.
I'm not a
Someone like
gravel fan.
gravel, yeah.
Yeah, gravel. I don't cheer for gravel, but if we're gonna witness kind of history, I'm here for it a little bit. Like yeah, it's gonna get old watching him win from the pole, and people are already bitching about the format. We talked about that last week. That people are stupid. If you're the fastest car, you're going and earning it every time you're on the racetrack. You get to go time trials quick. You get to start on the pole. You draw for your dash spot, by the way, but then you can go race, right? So like he's earning it. It's not like he's being given anything. Hell, he's had bad pill draws. He's spun out on freaking and on a lap and had one lap and goes quick time. He's broken track records. He's earning it. I think we should all be like, you were here for it. You were
Mhm.
witnessing history potentially. Like again, I don't want to call it history, but things that people probably thought weren't going to happen like that and dominate and have a title wrapped up by September or something, right? Like it's been a while.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody loved it. Nobody liked it unless you were fans of Donnie Shots. And everybody hated Shots when you weren't a fan for it. Don't hate this guy for it. He's earning it. He's going
Yeah.
and getting it. So in a very competitive era with a very competitive field around him. So I don't love it, but man, I'm gonna certainly try to remember a lot of these moments down the road to be like, man, that was something.
That
That was an
seems to al
accomplishment.
that seems to always happen. You get sick of the same guys winning. People, you start to become the villain, and then later on, when they start to be humbled a little bit, come back down to earth, later on in their careers, you start to really respect what they were able to do. Some of these legends, like you see it with like a Donnie Schatz in
Hmm.
NASCAR in a different type of form. You kind of see it with like a Kyle Busch, where these
Jimmy
guys were
Johnson
hated.
was like that.
Yeah, they were hated for so long because they won or their person, whatever. But then as they start getting towards later in their career, where they are humbled and start getting beat a little bit more, you start to really respect them, start to like them a little bit more because you're taking that. Oh, I'm so sick and tired of watching this guy win all the time. You're taking that away now, and you can kind of see the driver for what he is and respect the talent that he does have. And you know, I think that's I we'll see that with gravel. You know,
It kind of shows us how childish we are about it.
for sure. I mean,
Like during those times, like, damn it, this guy, I hate this
the only,
guy. I had no reason to hate the guy.
yeah, I mean, if you have a one or two drivers that you really, really pull for, yeah, you're not gonna like David Gravel, unless you're a Gravel fan. But when that person's just dominating so much and is really he's like the one reason, like you look at it, it's like that's the one reason your driver's not winning. That's when that hate starts to compound. I think you're not really looking at, like, if you're a Brent Marks fan, you're not really looking at Rico and being like, man, I can't stand you. You're really looking at like Brad Sweet. It's like you know what I mean? Like it's kind of,
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. So um maybe not as much in sprint car racing. That might be a little bit more NASCAR, but I think in general in motorsports, that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, is Rico running high limit, or is Rico racing wherever he wants? He is definitely running high limit. He got one of those charters, and he will be probably high limit for quite a few years until he decides to not run full time. Chris Gray says, "Watch out! Here comes out of left field. I want to see Lucas Wolf run strong. What the hell? Okay, I'll let myself out now." And then Mandy says, "As a diehard Lucas fan, I agree. Yeah, it's I know that's somebody that you pointed out early in the season, JC. Like, hey, watch out, this guy's gonna get it going." And it's still early. I mean, obviously, we know he can get it done. So,
Could be
you know,
wrong.
yeah,
Mm.
no, I think definitely just keep an eye out on for him. You know what I mean? The early season, a lot of these guys are still getting things worked out, bugs worked out of their cars and everything like that. So give it some time. Wait till the weather starts to warm up, and then you really see what some of these guys have. Um,
Tyler, put Tyler's comment on the screen about gravel winning in micros. People let
mhm.
it go. No, Tyler, we will not. That will never be forgiven. Absolutely not. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, nobody. He's Tyler says, seen gravel win micro races at 14 years old at Linda's. Seen him grow up in an outlaw as into an outlaw champion. Just wish people would let that pass go when it comes to gravel. People still bring up the 2014 Natty Open. That was 11 years ago already. And like Jay Z said, no, I'm not going to let that
We
one
don't
go.
forget. Nope, not letting that one go, Tyler. I can appreciate what he's doing today,
Yeah.
but that will never be let go. No.
Santos says, JC, I felt the same way when Larson ran full time dirt and ripped off 46 total wins. got old quick, but man, it was cool to say I watched it happen. He really rip off 26. That's an all time 2020 season with Larson. That was an all time season, man. Like
What a
I
season.
appreciate. I know I really appreciate. I'm a Larson fan, at least for NASCAR. I like Larson, but um, that 2020 season, like I knew when I was watching him do it, like I was trying to not to fall into the I'm sick and tired of watching this guy win. I was trying to appreciate what we were watching because not just because it's Kyle Larson, NASCAR guy coming here and winning. It's because that's an all time that's one of the all time greatest racing seasons for anyone ever. That's just what he accomplished there, and he did a lot of it here on our home turf here in PA. It was pretty cool to see. Um, so yeah, I mean, at those times you do got to take a step back and realize what you're watching.
Yeah, that season was wild. It was kind of it was a very mixed emotions year because Brent finished second to him like 18 times that year. And I'm a Brent fan,
Yeah.
right? And Brent was home for a lot of that, and like, holy crap, man, what a year that was to
Mhm.
finish. What a year he had, and it was just overshadowed in a sense. Now it wasn't as a fan, but like you finish second to Larson that many times, you're doing it right. But damn, like you'd rather I want to take a couple of those.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into the preview here for next week. Let me just move this real quick over. Okay,
That'll work.
just might be able to see it. That should work. Friday. I don't think there's any midweek races this week. I think next week there is. Um, we got High Limit at Central Arizona Raceway on Friday night in Casa Grande, Arizona. You got the World of Outlaws at Lawton Speedway in Lawton, Oklahoma. And then you have Williams Grove 410s and Super Sportsman, 7 p.m., $20 to get in, general admission. Do not miss this one. We'll get into the weather here soon. It looks like it's going to be pretty nice. Super Sportsman at the Grove is always a fun time. And obviously, you're going to get this season opener for the 410s. If not, High Limit, you can catch that on Flow Racing, of course. Outlaws, you can catch that on Dirt Vision. You could also catch Williams Grove on Dirt Vision if you miss that. Let's go next to Saturday here. Another full docket. Again, High Limit back to back at Central Arizona Raceway. Outlaws go up to 81 Speedway up in Wichita, Kansas. Lincoln Speedway will have 410s and Wingless Sportsmen. That'll be fun. That's their season opener for the Wingless Sportsmen down at Lincoln. And then Port Royal, they got a triple header, uh, uh, a 3 division card, 410s, super late models, and limited late models. 4 p.m. start time there, $20. 6 p.m. start time, $20 to get in at Lincoln. Of course, you could catch Port Royal on Flow. And then there's no racing at BAPS on Saturday because Sunday, uh, they will have 410s and 358 sprints, 4 p.m. on Sunday, $25 to get in, or catch it on Sprint Car Unlimited TV. They'll be covering the race. Jay-Z, we were already talking about it. One of the best cards of the year is 410s and 358s at BAPS.
Listen, for an early season weekend, I am hyped for this weekend because Friday night, Williams Grove and those super sportsmen. I love, hopefully they get this thing in. Weather looks. Do you have Jimmy's weather
I
forecast?
do. I'm going to go next there.
All right. So it looks pretty good, right? A little chilly at night, but I don't think it's going to be too cold. They can't get this thing going. Keep it moving. Let's go. The super sportsmen have starters. That's amazing. Get these things out there, get them going. It's 410s at Williams Grove. I'm hyped for that, obviously, opening day, but the super sportsmen at Williams Grove are freaking cool to see. Lincoln on Saturday. I'm going to be at Lincoln.
Mhm.
There is no plan B. It's Lincoln or bust. The wingless super sportsmen are at Lincoln on Saturday. Our good buddy Brett Perigo with his new race car. He's going to be out debuting his new race car this weekend. Excited to see him kind of rip around Lincoln. I like Brett. I don't know if I've seen him race there. So the
Yeah, I
timing
don't
has,
think I have either.
yeah, the timing just, whether he was in town, out of town, that this race happens. They get one a year there. Does it get rained out? Whatever. So looks pretty cool. Not knocking on port there for sure. And then BAP Sunday, yeah. So hopefully this weather improves this forecast. But the 410 358 show at BAPS is one of my favorite races of the entire season. And 358s, I'd love to see at BAPS more often. They get this race, and then they get one later in the year with the summer series, Dirty Deeds, something. They're like the
Yeah.
headline, the time trial, and they're kind of the headliner. I never make that show because it's during Speed Week, and I hate that I miss it. I'd like to go see it, but I would like to see more of this 410 358 combo at BAPS. There's so many young 358 drivers that do testing at BAPS all throughout the year.
Yep.
They support this show, and BAPS has shown the last couple of years with their car counts, the guys that run the laps are comfortable there. They like to go there.
Yep.
They saw it with the car counts in the 410s. We've seen it with other car counts in other divisions. And, I've talked to Colton a couple times and been like, hey, just nudge him like more 358s, more 358s, And I don't want to take away from any other series that they put on the card with the 410s, but love the 410 358 show at BAPS. And if you haven't gotten to BAPS yet or seen anything at BAPS, new guardrail on 3 and 4, track has been kind of reshaped a little bit. It races different, it looks different. I'm excited to see full size sprint cars and heat race and feature action, and how they kind of navigate through 3 and 4 and how it races. It's already a racy racetrack to begin with. I'm excited for this weekend.
Yeah, when I first did, and you notice on the forecast here, I put a little early tag on it because it's very early. Obviously, I mean it just from yesterday to today. It changed when I originally did the forecast yesterday. It looked like it was just going to be overcast all weekend, and actually the most chance of rain looked like it was going to be Saturday. Now Friday is actually going to be probably, it says cloudy, but it's actually going to be like probably partly sunny. And same thing with on Saturday, and they're both going to be warm, up in the 60s, almost 70 on Saturday, staying around 50 at night. And same thing on Sunday. Like that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like high 40s, low 50s at night. That is perfect. Um, very little chance of rain Friday and Saturday. Looking right now, Sunday looks like just some passing showers. Doesn't look like anything too heavy, but it hopefully is not enough. Maybe it'll be like a port situation on Saturday where there's a rain delay or something. But I think if they run, they get a crowd, they get cars, as long as the weather doesn't look too bad. But right now it's looking like 66 and a couple showers on Sunday, unfortunately. But hopefully that changes. Saturday, yeah, you got two great events at Port and Lincoln. Uh, Wingless Sportsmen would be they got to be fun around Lincoln. Any wingless car, I think Lincoln. I think they should have more wingless races if they can, between Sportsman and USAC East Coast or whatever. So I think that's a cool track to have wingless on. And then yeah, Williams Grove on Friday. I think they finally get their opener in. uh, Going to some comments here. Matthew says, I'm ready for a 3-day weekend and good 410 and 358 action at BAPS on Sunday. Yeah,
Oh,
358 then will be their only race then this weekend is BAPS.
yes, this is their only event this weekend. Yep.
Um,
Brandon Zirk, is Tony Jackson racing this year? Yes, Tony actually did race this past weekend. Check out my photos page. I got a couple of shots of the new car on the page. I got some from the heat race. Really good looking race car, all black with it. Beautiful race car. So check out my photos page. I got a couple of them up there. And then Tim Bayshore and Gary Ferguson were both there shooting that day as well. So they'll have a bunch on their sites, which are we're all on the same site, just our own pages. I didn't post any of mine on that website page, but go to my Facebook, you can see those. And then put Chris's comment on the screen because this is an interesting topic that we won't need to get into a lot. But not sure how to work it, but some type of track pass for diehards so ticket prices are manageable. I get this,
isn't that
but
season tickets?
but it's season ticket for Central PA. Think about that. Not a
Oh,
season ticket, but what if you bought a package of 50 races or 40 races and it was an averaged out, right? Maybe it doesn't include your touring series, but weekly shows and you get a package and
the average stuff
you
like
can take
$15 a race or something, or
yeah, something like that, like you get a package of tickets for your local baseball team and you get 20 games. Now, this is 3 different racetracks, 3 different businesses, 3 different business
yeah,
models. It would be insanely hard to put together, but think about something to keep an eye on, Chris. Apps does a lot of things for half off pre-orders, $10 off, things like that, because they get 10, 11 of these 410 shows, and for a lot of them, they'll actually do like pre-order and save you some bucks. Check those out if you're gonna if you're
Yeah.
a BAPS, you're a BAPS attendee, you save a couple bucks there, right? But I love this idea. I think this is neat. The problem is you got to get all the tracks to work together. We can't even get them to work together to figure out a street stock division around here and have the same rules. They're not going to figure out this for us fans, okay? So just saying.
I I like that you bring up what BAPS does there because they were one of the first to really lean into My Race Pass. And don't get me wrong, a couple years ago when My Race Pass first came out, man, was it ass? It was an awful app. But it really turned. Now all four of these tracks use it, and BAPS does a great job of doing pre-order codes and getting half off. They ran a deal early in the season. Any race you could have gotten half off. Those are the times to get them, and then they still do the guarantee where, like, hey, if it rains out, you get your money back. You know what I mean? And at half price, man, you can't beat that. If it's
Yeah.
something you're planning on going to, just do it. And they usually, especially these 410 Sunday shows, they usually do a lot of different type of deals. They do a ton of ticket giveaways. I love what BAPS does on the promotion side. I think they do it. I think all four of these tracks. I really am impressed too with what Williams Grove has done too this season. But all four tracks have really stepped up a lot in the promotion department, I think, and do a fantastic job. But BAPS, I just think deserves a shout out because they really kind of adopted a lot of this stuff early.
Yeah, the one, did you see the one today they're doing for 4 free pit passes for any team? They have to let BAPS know if they're coming to race this coming weekend on Sunday for the 410 358 show. They're gonna put everybody that it says, "Hey, we're gonna be there." They're gonna put them in a drawing, pick a team out of the hat, and they'll get 4 free pit passes for a team. So, like, just little things like that. I mean, it can go a long way, right? And now the track has a good idea who's showing up. They can do promotion for the race cars that are showing up. Like, there's a lot of just little things like that are dual, that gets the fans excited. Number one, hey, we're going to be there. Oh, cool. Guess who's going to be here?
Yep.
They give away 4 free pit passes. Teams, think about what's a pit pass? 35 dollars.
Yeah.
Like, that's not nothing, right? I mean, it's not going to like save
Especially when
somebody's.
if you're a team and you got to pay for 4 or 5
Yeah.
guys, you know what I mean? That adds up quick.
Yep. And you talked about promotion. I am encouraged by some of the things I'm seeing this year.
Yeah.
Port Royal, watch it, listening to Flo. They did a fan of the day, right? Got to go
Yep.
on a pace truck ride. It was a child and an
Yeah.
adult.
That was Matt's kid, Matthew Bird. That was their
Oh,
kid.
really?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So they really did this, and they have the chaplain at Port going around the infield talking to people. They did the fan of the day thing. I know Williams Grove did the kids club. I've seen some cool things from Lincoln this year already. A couple neat little things they're doing. Um, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement, but I like some of the things I'm seeing this year, that the teams put some effort into the brainstorming of how we can make the fan experience better on every week, not just some weeks.
Hmm.
I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, I agree, and I like Williams Grove's been doing the kids club thing. Uh, they're doing a lot of different things on social media. I think they're really starting to embrace some of this stuff that maybe 3 4 years ago they necessarily weren't. And it's kind of I don't know. I think it's very encouraging. I think it is bringing people out to the track. I'm seeing a lot of new faces at the track. I feel like the past year. So maybe it's just me. I don't know, but you know, I definitely think you're seeing new people come out and become fans. I think it's a good thing. Um,
Um, Caden
but
Leonard, Tony
yes,
Jackson Racing Sportsman, or is he racing 410? Just Super Sportsman. No longer a 410 operation with Scott Hess Racing there. That stuff's gone. It was Sportsman only, winged and wingless this year, and he will be retiring after 2025.
yeah, this is
So
his last
farewell
season.
tour for Tony Jackson.
Yeah, if you're a fan of Tony Jackson, get out and see him as much as you can this year. Uh, yeah. So just real quick recap here: Friday, High Limit and World of Outlaws. And then you got Williams Grove with 410s and Super Sportsman. Saturday, High Limit and Board of Outlaws, and then you got Lincoln with the Wingless Super Sportsman and the 410 Sprints. 6 p.m. $20 to get in on Saturday in Port Royal. 410 super late models, limited late models. 4 p.m. Racing. $20 to get in on float racing, and then of course BAPS on Sunday. $25 to get in. 4 p.m. start. Can also catch it on Sprint Car Unlimited, and hopefully to get that all in. So before we sign off, let's do Drink It or Dump It. This is when we give a shout out to you drink it to somebody that had a good weekend, and you dump it to somebody who maybe had a bad weekend. You want to go first?
Sure. Sheesh, let's see. I don't drink it. Man, that's a tough one. I'll drink it the Port Royal Speedway. Effort, commitment. I'm in. Let's get it done. Let's go. Um, Shout out Port Royal. Great to get them to get their race in. Now let's get Williams Grove get theirs in. Let's get this going.
Yep.
Dump it to Austin Hogue. I've seen a few comments in the chat. Um,
Sound like
this
a
is a
tough
tough
one at
one.
Hunters.
What's that?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, pretty vicious wreck at Hunterstown in a cart. Kind of came up on an accident and got caught up in it and got ejected from the cart and on the track and right on the front stretch in front of the fans. I'm sure that was scary for a lot of people. Saw the video of this one. It was pretty rough to see and um, listen, good person, bad person. I don't want to ever see anybody get hurt in a race car. But man, this one's tough. He's part of the Baps family, part of Dottie's Food Market. His family owns that. Former 410 driver. Um, just great all around. You've seen a lot of outpouring from his peers in the racing community. Shouting him out and praying for him. And again, a very very terrible situation. But a lot of good positive signs early on about his hopes for recovery. So dump it for the Hogue family, and just tough one for the racing community right now. So we're hoping for the best for Austin.
Yeah, hoping he's pulling through. And I did see some encouraging posts. He's dealing with a lot, but hopefully it's trending all in the right direction. So keep your prayers coming, and hopefully he pulls out of it soon. Um, I'm going to go with. I was going to do Port as well. I give them a shout out just for sticking with it and getting it in. But I want to give a shout out to Kelly Watt, coming out from Iowa. Uh, look, I think that's his first time at Port. I don't think he was ever there before. I know he did Williams Grove, but I don't think he ever went to Port. Um, yeah, he pulled a little bit of luck at the draw, got the pull, but man, he looked like he's ran a ton of laps there before, and he never has. So looked really good. Tough for him. He passed by me as I was going to Victory Lane. He was on his, getting pushed off, and a lot of people are saying, "Hey, man, great run!" Giving a lot of encouragement. He really turned a lot of heads. So shout out Kelby, and dump it to. Um, I'll dump it to Austin Bishop. Man, he had a tough race. Not a great start to the season for him. Getting caught up in two wrecks, basically back to back, and yeah, just tough Saturday for him.
No doubt.
Steph says, drink it to Aaron Reitzel. It's a good one. Dump it to all the bad wrecks this weekend. Also, prayers and good vibes to Austin. Matthew says, drink it to Port to finally getting a show in. Dump it to the former 410 driver for Austin at Hunterstown Speedway. Santos says, drink it to Brock Zierfoss. Showing a lot of speed in that A car. Excited to see what 2025 has in store for BZR and Eichelberger. Dump it to Doug Hamaker and Austin Hogue. Honorable drink it, as always, to T2T for another awesome episode. See you all at the track real soon. Thank you very much, Santos. We appreciate that. Yeah, just it was good to see at least some racing. This was my first race of the year, and now I got the juices in me. You know what I mean? Like, I've been watching at home. I'm like, whatever. It's still too early, and now got to see race cars right there. Get together with it. It was so cool. Like there wasn't a ton of people in the infield, but it definitely feels like there's a nice uh, conglomerate in turn two. That it's kind of a congregation point at this point. It's really cool to see. I'm not saying that's because of us. It's just one of the best spots to watch racing, I think, out of all the tracks. But
Except for those damn side by sides. I mean, they just pile in there every.
true.
It's a weird heat race. There's always
Yeah.
one heat race every weekend. They just pile in there. It's weird. I don't know.
I think one of the things that really got me, and that's why I was saying like it kind of reminded me of older port like a couple years ago was one reason I love being in turn two is you saw tons of huge dive sliders in turn one, and then right in front of you in turn two is where that point was where that guy was sliding them and the other guy was turning down. And you saw a bunch of that on Saturday. And I felt like I didn't see that a lot last year just because of how the track surface was. So I feel like they got some of those gremlins, especially last half of this last season. But I feel like they got some of those gremlins worked out, and I'm really encouraged to see some really great racing back at Port. Mandy says, I got to meet Mandy too. That was cool. Drink it, getting to see the T2T gang in the infield, an absolutely wonderful race at Port. Macri coming home and winning, Eckert winning as a badass Port feature. Dump it to all the torn up cars at Port and everywhere else. Tyler Ross, Hammaker, Bishop, Baston, and Austin Hogue, and the weather. Um, uh, Quick question from Caden: what was your favorite race to watch this year so far?
Well,
Uh,
Jimmy, that's a pretty short list.
Yeah.
Is it
Well,
in
I
person?
think he's talking
Or,
probably like everything that like high limit, World of Outlaws, everything so far this year.
okay, go ahead. Do you know your
I'm gonna go with Port though on Saturday. Just nothing like
um
being there.
the uh the icebreaker? Chase running Danny down,
Yeah.
in traffic there. Um, I think that was a good one so far. It was, you got a good car get out front and you had another good car chasing and they had a battle. I think that was probably my favorite one so far. Um, but hey, set the bar there and we'll see if we can beat it this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I think I don't know. I'm very encouraged by the racing that we saw here locally to start the season. A lot of strong cars. Hopefully, they could all keep it going, and we see some strong racing here throughout. One more. Um, Two more. Drink it to Macri on the W, and the 23 Statement Motorsports team on another top five. Dump it to the crashes at Port and Austin Hogue. That's from Dave Scott Smeltzer. Tyler Koenig. I'm ready for a triple header this week and heading to New Jersey. Excuse me, to New Jersey on Saturday. Of course you would. And drink it to Kyle Larson having a near perfect weekend. Dump it to hearing the news about Austin Hogue. Tyler's racing roundup will be on Thursday. Arch meeting with Alan Kreitzer on Wednesday. So there you go. If you're looking for some other things to watch this week, definitely check out Tyler's racing roundup. He's on Facebook, always giving all the stats, all the good insight. Brandon Zirk, one more. Drink it to Macri for the opener win and dump it to Mother Nature's. Always messing up my plans.
No shit.
So yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're listening the next day, Ryan Smith, shout out. Got to hang out with him in the infield too on Saturday. I know he listens the next day, but we see you guys. I know we got in a couple comments and stuff. We do see you that you guys listen the next day and everything. So really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll be back next week and hopefully see you at the track. Maybe a trip.